Hello, my name is David Gates, and this is my movie review video for interpersonal communication. Today I'm going to be looking at the relationship of Gary and Julius in the movie Remember the Titans. So, first I want to begin with the concept of a third culture. So that is what really starts this movie off. The African American students and the white students at this newly formed mixed race school go to a football camp at a college in a separate area, and I think that this is what really begins to develop this third culture of the football team, because ultimately in this movie that third culture of the football team is what drives racial integration and acceptance in this town, at least in the student body. Um, the the third culture is mainly exemplified by Coach Boone. He is the one who forces self-disclosure as part of his his challenge to these players. They go to 3-a-day practices until each one of them can tell the coach certain things about a player of a different race. The important thing that I think is so instantly exemplified is that it's easier for them to have this third culture, to have this football team in this bubble, because, and this is mostly exemplified in the clip that I'm going to play for you here, of this when the students immediately return to the school and it's full of the racial tension. Gary and Julius exemplify this by Julius saying to Gary, "We're not at camp anymore," exemplifying the fact that at camp it was easier. At camp they had this third common culture that they could work through. In fact, this third culture is again brought up in a clip that I'm going to play, where Gary and Julius stop a fight between white students and African American students, and Gary stops the white students and Julius stops the African American students. In fact, I'll play that for you now. As we can see that this third culture has really blossomed and formed. Next, I'd like to move on to causal attribution theory. So if we look at causal attribution theory, I think is exemplified once very strongly in this movie. Julius has invited Gary to come play basketball with him in the wrong side of town, at least by Gary's mother's perception. And Gary's mother stands up to Gary, I guess, and demands that, no, he's going to church. And so, no matter how much Gary wanted to go play basketball, he can't. Because of this, Julius immediately believes that it was racially driven. He wouldn't come to the wrong side of town. He wouldn't go to the burg. And I think that fully examples causal attribution theory, because if we look, it was actually circumstance was the reason that Gary couldn't come, but Julius automatically believes that it's the kind of person that he is, and this causes conflict between the two of them. Next, I'm going to be looking at the 5 stages of relational escalation. So, number 1, I'm going to look at the pre-interaction stage is very simple. It could either be attributed to the bus section or before, when they just know that the schools are going to integrate. In fact, we see, there's Gary and his white friends go and try to beat up a bunch of black protesters. We can see that clearly there is this issue where I would say that the bus scene is probably more the pre-interaction stage. We can see that Gary is aware of Julius, but doesn't really have any interaction with him. I say they move to the acquaintance stage when they end up rooming together. There's a very easy scene of Gary and Julius starting a fight because Julius wants to hang a poster that Gary doesn't agree with. Um, I think the important thing is the transition from the acquaintance stage to the exploration stage really happens during that forced self-disclosure period that Coach Boone talks about. Um, we can see the why don't we get some particular scene. We can see that at the onset of this forced self-disclosure, Gary and Julius really decide to lay it all on the line and self-disclose and tell them how they really feel. And we can see how this affects. We can see that this is clearly when they start to care about each other in the movie. And they go through camp. This is they've been real. They've laid it out. And okay, we're gonna prove it. We're gonna fight. We're gonna show some potential, and we're gonna be the captain. Next, I'd like to talk about specifically the intensification stage. I think the intensification stage is most strongly exemplified by the left side strong sides scene, which I'll play now. We can see that they really care about each other in this, or I guess begin to care about each other. They've decided that they're friends and that they're going to put real effort into this. Throughout the rest of the movie, we can see them in this intensification stage. There's multiple locker room scenes. There's interactions between Julius and Gary's then girlfriend Emma. Gary leaves Emma because of how much he cares about his friendship with Julius. They might move down a bit at that basketball scene I talked about earlier, but they really do care about each other, and I think that they fully do reach the intimacy phase by the end of the movie. And I think this is most exemplified by, in my opinion, one of the strongest scenes in the movie, where Gary has had an accident that will put him in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, and the only person he wants to talk to is Julius. And in fact, when Julius walks in the room and a nurse says, only family are allowed, Gary's response is simply, "Are you blind? That's my brother." And in fact, I'll play that scene for you right now. We can see that, Gary really cares about Julius. And I think that they truly reach the full final intimacy stage of the stages. Overall, I think that this is a good interpersonal relationship. I think that by the end of the movie, they truly care about each other, and I think that they represent a lot of different aspects of interpersonal communication. I think that the biggest one being social penetration theory. They try to do a lot of depth in how they move, and I really think that they go through a lot of conflict struggles and a lot of things that really fully exemplify the concepts that we've learned about in this class. Thank you.